Hello there, I'm Vieno, and this is my 13th tutorial on D3. And like I said in the previous tutorial, in this video I'll be showing you how to create a basic pie chart, such as this one, or a donut chart, I guess. So I prepared this from before, but I've I've erased all the code. But yeah, this is what our chart is gonna look like if we succeed in creating it. So I'm just gonna refresh here and we have nothing. So let's begin. I've set up a basic data array here consisting of 3 values, and I have a variable containing the radius for our donuts, and I have a canvas. So let's begin by creating a group where we store our visualization and transform it. Translate 300 to 300, something like that. All right. So there's 2 aspects to this donut chart. The first one is the arc path generator, which we looked at in the previous video, and the second one is a new feature of D3. Well, it's not a new feature, but it's the first time I bring it up in this series of tutorials, and that is the layout. There are a number of different layouts available to us in D3, and what they have in common, each layout takes a set of data and I guess recalculates it and returns something different. So for example, in this video we'll be using the pie layout, and what the pie layout does is it takes all our data, and for each data element it returns an object with a start angle and an end angle, and also a value property which contains the actual value. So we'll look at that in a second, but first let's set up our arc path generator. So t3.svg.arc, and in this case we'll just be supplying it with the radius, and that is because, let's see, outer radius 300, and let's set the inner radius to 200, and that is because the start angle and the end angle will be provided by the pie layout, and the pie layout looks like this: d3.layout.pie. Simple enough. And we need to specify how this layout is to fetch our data. So since we have this, we only have this really basic data set up here, we'll just do this. We'll use the value accessor function and make it return our data. We also, so obviously we have to bind our data to our document, and once again we select all. In this case we'll select everything that has the class arc, and here's a piece of new information. So in this case we'll bind our data to that selection, but we'll first pass the data to our pie layout. So we're binding our data to our selection, but first the data goes into this pie layout. I just repeated what I said once again, but never mind. And then we'll use the enter method, and we'll append a group for each data element, and every group element has the class of arc. Okay, so the next step is to append a path to each, because right now if we update this, we have nothing on our page. We have to append a path to each of these returned objects. So if we take a look at the inspector here and take a look at what the pi data actually contains, we can see that we are returned with 3 different objects. Each of these objects, and this is the result of us passing this data right here to this layout here. This layout returns these 3 objects, and as you can see, each object has the data property, the start angle and the end angle, but we need to create a path out of those objects. So the way we do that is simply we'll select our group elements and we'll append a path to each, and the data, I mean the D attribute, which we looked at previously, will fetch its path data from the arc path generator up here, and in doing this arc generator will be handed over, will also get this this data right here, so the start angle and the end angle, which we see right here. So the radius, the inner and outer radius, is provided here, and then we pass on this data to the path generator down here. So yeah, and also if we save this now, I think we should see something. Yeah, okay, so we have our donut right here, but it's hard to tell the difference between the different arcs. So what we'd like to do is to give them different colors, right? Okay, so a good way to do that is to use a color scale, which we've looked at before, and we'll store it in the variable color. So if you remember, color scales or scales in general are created by writing D3.scale, and in this case we'll use an ordinal scale, which takes it basically means that the input is not quantitative. It can consist of a number of names or anything that is not a continuous domain, and we actually don't have to specify a domain right here. I won't go into the details of this since this is not the topic of this tutorial, but we can just specify a range. And let's say, since we have 3 different data elements, we can specify 3 colors here. So let's say red, blue, and orange. And then we supply this with a fill attribute, and the fill will be a function. No, it won't be a function. It will, well, actually, yeah. So function D, and will return color D. No, actually, oh yeah, right. So if we do this, this will return the whole object with the different properties that we looked at. So pi data, it will return this whole object, but we're only after the data right here, the data property. So we say that we return d.data, since this is how we specify an individual property of an object. I know this is a lot of information, but yeah, that's life. So let's try to save this and refresh, and we have this quite nice looking donut chart. So let's just wrap this up with appending some text to it. So once again, we append to each group element, since if we inspect here, we can see that each of these arcs are contained within a group element. So yeah, let's append to each group a text element, and we have to use the transform on each. So this is a bit complicated, but actually it's not that complicated, but it might look complicated. We want to return, let's see, function d return, translate, and then we want to append a new method of the arc path generator, which is centroid, which basically returns the center of each arc and the center of the data, each arc in our data. And this is a bit messy, but something like that. All this does is basically just put the labels at the right place. So we also want to get some actual text, and the text will be a function, and we'll just return the data. So d-data once again. Let's take a look at this. Whoops. Yeah, so we have these small labels here. We can style them a bit. If we want to, we can set the text anchor, which is an attribute in SVG, to the middle, and we can make the font size a bit larger. So let's say 1.5 EM, and let's take a look at this again. Yeah, so there we can read it. It's not the best color scale, but yeah, it's not the point of this tutorial. But yeah, that was a short, well, not a short, but a quick overview of creating donut charts in D3. And actually, to make this a pie chart, all we have to do is obviously set the inner radius and the outer radius to the same. Let's save and refresh. No. Let's see, the inner, oh no, the inner radius must be 0. So let's refresh, and we have a pie chart. Yeah, so that's it, folks. This is the first layout we take a look at, and we'll return to additional additional layouts in D3 in the future. See you next time.